about an attendant of God coming down to provide help to various people who are at crossroads in their lives. Touched by a Ghost is the Halloween episode of Law & Order SVU. Thank you, I'm Hisham Kaladi.
Hisham Kaladi putting it together in a nice bow. Let's see what our living judges have decided. By applause, who agreed with Hisham's angel angle and praised it on high? Hisham Kaladi. Okay, nice support for Hisham. And who here thought Kathleen's argument on behalf of Ghosts was calm, cool, and collected? Kathleen McGee. Wow! The audience has spoken. The winner is Kathleen McGee. Ghosts are better than angels. Big hand for Kathleen McGee and Hisham Kaladi, everybody. Well, that's all for this week. I'm Steve Patterson saying to all the ghosts and angels listening to CBC right now, thanks for boosting our ratings. I'll argue with you again soon, Canada. Good night.
The Debaters is created by Richard Side. This week's episode was produced by Nicole Callender, Chloe Edbrook, Dean Jenkinson, and Graham Clark. With continuity by Graham Clark, Diana Francis, and Gary Jones. Technical production by James Perella and Lloyd Peterson. Story editing by Gary Jones. With special thanks to Katie Ellen Humphreys, David Pride, and Emily Ferrier. Executive producer of CBC Radio Comedy is Lee Pitts. And thanks to everyone at the Jubilee Place Theatre and the Winnipeg Comedy Festival.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Winnipeg has long been home for Negon Sinclair, but the columnist and Indigenous Studies professor says his city also helps tell the story of Canada.
The Manitoba Act of 1870, the very first province that's created. So this is the first footstep of this country, and I think we have yet to take many more steps.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at 6 degrees with drizzling skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. A man is dead after being shot by Mounties early this morning. Steinbach RCMP were patrolling along Highway 52 in the La Broquerie area when they spotted a vehicle stopped on the side of the road. Officers saw a man standing by the driver's side door. As police approached, they saw the man was reaching into the vehicle, assaulting the woman in the driver's seat. He was ordered to step away, but instead, officers say he came at them with an edged weapon. As he continued to approach, an officer fired his gun. A 51-year-old man from the St. Anne area died at the scene. The woman had minor injuries. RCMP Major Crimes and the Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba are now investigating. Highway 52 is still closed, and a detour is now in effect. The federal government is putting up more money for a project to transform the former Hudson Bay building in downtown Winnipeg. Today, Federal Minister Dan Van Daal announced Ottawa will provide more than $31 million for the Southern Chiefs organization's Wewene-Bagakinagan project. This is on top of the $65 million the federal government already committed. Van Daal says the project aims to have 350 housing units and other amenities.
This investment will support the creation of a public space on the main floor of the building dedicated to honoring First Nations people, history, the land, and residential school survivors.
Southern Chiefs Grand Chief Jerry Daniels says the support from the federal government for Wewene-Bagakinagan is an example of economic reconciliation. Hundreds of patients have had their records accessed inappropriately by a worker at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre. Shared Health says the breach happened over the span of months from last summer through to this spring. Shared Health says Manitoba's ombudsman has been made aware of the breach and the patients have been notified. The staff member is no longer working at HSC, we're told. In a ruling today issued in The Hague, the International Court of Justice is ordering Israel to shut down its military operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Lauren Comato has your details.
In March, the World Court ordered Israel to do everything it could to prevent a possible genocide in Gaza and let in more aid. Since then, presiding Judge Nawaf Salam says the situation has deteriorated so badly, the court is now calling for additional measures.
Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate that would bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part.
Calling the situation catastrophic, judges found that Israel hasn't provided any information about the safety of the 800,000 Gazans it says have fled Rafah since Israel began its military offensive there earlier this month. Judges also ordered unfettered access to the Strip by investigation and fact-finding missions. Israel has 1 month to issue a report on its compliance to the court's legally binding orders. But with no enforcement mechanism, it will be up to the international community to pressure Israel into abiding by them. Lauren Comato for CBC News, Amsterdam.
Canada's Immigration and Refugee Board has issued a deportation order for the driver behind the Humboldt Broncos tragedy. Jaskirat Singh Sadhu was sentenced to 8 years in prison for his role in the 2018 crash. His truck sped through a stop sign near Tisdale, Saskatchewan, and into the junior hockey team's bus. 16 people were killed. Sadhu arrived to Canada from India in 2014. He is no longer eligible for permanent residency status because of his criminal conviction. The credibility of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, has come under scrutiny in recent weeks. Key members of the Prime Minister's inner circle say CSIS made errors during the recent foreign interference inquiry, but the spy agency's director insists things are not that simple. Catherine Tunney explains.
There was a mistake made where there was a threat linked to an MP that didn't seem right.
That's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, at the Foreign Interference Inquiry last month, testifying about a time PMO challenged the Canadian Security Intelligence Service.
They came to us the next day and reversed their assessment because they had made a mistake.
In a recent interview, CSIS Director David Vigneault pushed back.
I would have, maybe a different interpretation.
The spy director didn't elaborate, but suggested there's a difference between making a mistake and filling in a puzzle.
Sometimes you're at the beginning of the puzzle, you're not really sure what it's going to look like, and that's how you present your intelligence.
Vigneault did say CSIS could do a better job of explaining that distinction to government officials. The public inquiry ultimately found foreign interference is happening in Canada, but didn't change the results of the last 2 elections. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Ottawa.
And documentarian Morgan Spurlock has died. Spurlock was best known for his 2004 film, Super Size Me.
Double quarter pounder with cheese meal. I think I'm going to have to go supersize.
Spurlock spent a month eating only McDonald's food to illustrate the dangers of a fast food diet. In 2019, he released Super Size Me 2. That film looked at the poultry industry. Spurlock's family says he died yesterday from complications of cancer. He was 53 years old. Looking at the forecast in Winnipeg, a windy, rainy day, heavy rain at times, a high around 9 degrees. Brandon, heavy rain mixed with snow at times and a high of +2. Right now, you're listening to CBC.
Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining us on this wet Friday. Everywhere in southern Manitoba, just getting drenched today. But we're glad you're safe and warm and listening to Radio Noon, maybe watching on YouTube. Hi, everybody who is. I'm Janet Stewart, by the way, if I didn't say that already. Coaches. If they're abusive, they can inflict a lifetime of damage. And those are important stories to share. We're hearing a lot of them these days. But a great coach can also do an awful lot of good. We're talking about coach training in our calling conversation this afternoon at 12:30, and we want to hear from you. What coach made a difference for you? If you think of something that flies when you hear the word drone, we'll have you thinking again why it's a type of electronic music Grabbing the Globe, coming up at 12:15. But we start with that drenching rain. We start with that rainfall warning that has southern Manitoba in its sights. Now, I was this morning thinking about all the rain that was falling and looking at a website. I called Nancy Penner. She's the mayor of Morden. I gave her a call less than an hour ago to ask about the high amount of rain that the COCORAZ website said Morden had received this morning. COCORAZ stands for Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. But it turns out the website was showing an underestimate. Here's my conversation with the mayor. What's it like when 30 millimeters of rain falls on your city in less than 3 hours?
Well, I actually just checked with our operations director, and we're actually at 2.2 inches. So I'm not sure what that translates into millimeters. So an inch is 25. So we're probably at 50 millimeters right now this morning.
Oh, my heavens, that's from someone's local rain gauge.
Yes, up at our operations work shop area. So we're, over the 50 millimeters already this morning. So our lake was just at capacity before this rain, and the spillway is running, so the lake is over full supply level. So, we're pleased with the rain. Our creek was empty, so that means our Dead Horse Creek is now taking surplus capacity. It does mean our storm sewers are running at capacity, and city crews are just out making sure the storm sewers are all open. We don't have any issues at this time, but we're just, of course, monitoring the rains at this point.
So at this point, there's no overland flooding that you're seeing in the streets? You're not getting calls from homeowners worried about their basements?
No, not yet. The storm sewers are running at capacity, and many homeowners do have backup valves and sewer backup valves in their homes, so we are just monitoring right now. There's no alerts going out or anything like that.
When was the last time you can remember it raining this hard?
Oh, a couple of years ago in June, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago in June, we had 5 inches over a couple of days, and then we had major overland flooding. The creek was backing up into backyards. I actually live on the creek, and we were manning our sump pumps and making sure we have a sewer backup valve, so we didn't have any sewer backup, but we were getting groundwater seepage. And, that usually once the rain stops, the creek, goes down and everything goes back to normal. So it's usually just that day and a half when the rain is running that we run into problems, but we haven't had that for 3 or 4 years now.
And you say you're glad to see the rain.
Well, we're always glad to see rain. We've, had in 2022, we were in extreme drought situation here in Morden, and we're always pleased to see rain come. We would like to see it, rain an inch every week and have it overnight and just keep everything topped up. We can't be like that. I know the farm community is welcoming the rain, but I know they would like to finish up seeding. I know there's probably lots of soybeans and canola that need to get into the ground. We're not finished seeding yet, and it's getting late into May, so I know the farm community, double-edged sword here, they welcome the rain, but they need to finish up seeding. So,
did you bring your rain boots?
I don't need them yet. There are puddles in the street, but the sewers are holding everything, and everything's running free. So, it's a rainy day. I do have my umbrella out, though.
Mayor Nancy Penner of Morden, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for the invite. Enjoy the weekend.
So 2.2 inches of rain equals 55.8 millimeters. That's a lot of rain to get in 3 hours. Brandon's getting soaked today, too, and maybe even worse, that rain has turned to snow. CBC's Chelsea Kemp is a fabulous photographer. She sent us some great photos of the snow in Brandon today. You can see them on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. just on our YouTube page later today, too, on the CBC News. I'm sure you'll be able to see them. We're having some tech issues, so we don't have them up on our YouTube stream right now. But great photos come from this snow. Still, it's not what Dennis Neffen expected to see today. He's the organizer of the Western Canada Ribfest tour, and today is the first day of its 3-day visit to Brandon. Hello, Dennis.
Hi there. How are you today?
Well, I'm just great. How are you? Are you nice and warm?
You know what? I've been doing Ribfest for a long time. This is the first year we ever kicked off a tour, and I got hit with a snowball.
You did? Who threw that snowball at you, Dennis?
Oh, one of the staff. I'm being held responsible for the unique weather today.
So tell me about that unique weather. You arrive in Brandon, you and your chefs get all set up outside the Riverbank Discovery Center last night. You wake up and it's raining, and then what?
Well, so we arrived in town a few days early, and the weather was just wonderful in Brandon. It's such a great city, too. And we were exploring and getting to go see some businesses, and everyone's like, oh, well, watch out for the rain. There's some rain coming in. And each day, you thought go more and more for the millimeters coming in. And finally, we're like, oh, wait, should we gotta be concerned now? And then we woke up to some very challenging weather, but our trucks were already set up, so it was more about cooking. But the guys fired up the smokers, fired up the grills, and we were ready to go. But then it turned to snow.
How heavy was this snow?
It's actually still falling right now. I'm actually in the Riverbank Discovery Center just getting warm while I'm speaking with you, and I'm looking at a pretty solid blanket of snow on the grass right now. So the cement's not really too covered, but the grass areas are all there's snow.
There's snow. The pictures that I saw showed really big flakes, and I was hoping they were just melting on contact, but you say they're staying on the grass.
Yeah, on the cement, they're kind of hitting the ground, turning to water. So we have lots of puddling, lots of flooding. So we're maneuvering our setups to make sure our feet stay dry. But believe it or not, 11 a.m. when doors open, we had Brandon people coming through getting some ribs.
All right, those are my Wheat City people. You got to be, if you love good ribs, what's it like cooking on a snowy vista?
So the Western Canada Ribfest tour is actually part of a larger countrywide tour. So when we're out east in like Halifax and that weather's coming off the ocean, we've strapped down our rib trucks to boulders to keep them from flying away before us. We've ribbed in all conditions. These guys, some of our pit masters, they've been doing it for 20 years, so they've seen it all. Actually, no, this is the first time they said they've seen snow. But besides that, they've seen it all. But the conditions are, we're layered up. And the community's really coming forward here, and someone brought us some Tim Hortons for all our staff. Obviously we can't have our big entertainment lineup, so a few venues reached out and offered us their buildings for tonight, so we can keep our festivities going while we're here. So the biggest thank you to the community of Brandon, Manitoba. They've been nothing but wonderful. So
where has the entertainment moved to?
So we have Shania Twain. She's the #1 North American tribute to Shania Twain, and she's incredible. And so the 40, which is a local establishment here in Brandon, Manitoba, they've let us bring our act over there. They even had a band scheduled for tonight who's going to push back so we can accommodate our Ribfest faithful. And we're going to the 40 tonight, and we're going to have Shania Twain on stage, and it's going to be a full sold-out building, and we're really looking forward to it.
So, Dennis Neffen, I'm proud to say that I got to talk to you on the day when your chefs, your masters, had really seen it all when it came to weather. Because as of today, they've seen the snow.
Yeah, we've now seen snow on the Ribfest tour. So,
thank you so much for joining us. Hey, if anybody's listening and they want to head down to Ribfest, Dennis, what do you recommend they wear?
Well, depending on where you hit us on this tour, if you look up the Western Canada Ribfest tour, you'll see our 20 stops across Western Canada, and depending on the weekend, you might be able to pull off flip-flops and shorts. But today, I'm going to say full-on winter jacket, toque, and maybe some gloves, too.
Maybe a napkin?
But the ones without the fingers, so you can still eat the ribs.
Oh, that's good. Dennis, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, you guys. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Dennis Neffen is the organizer of the Western Canada Ribfest tour. Today is the first day of its 3-day visit to Brandon. Ribfest comes to Winnipeg next Friday. Let's hope it doesn't snow.
Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. The Beaches, Charlotte Cardin, William Prince, Jeremy Dutcher, July Talk, and more. CBC Music Live at Massey Hall, now available on CBC Jam.
Thank you, Toronto!
It is 12:17, and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and on YouTube on the CBC Manitoba page. Thanks so much for joining us today on this rainy day. And yes, the southern Manitoba and areas of the Interlake are sitting underneath a rainfall warning. Boy, it is coming down, and as we just heard, there is snow coming in some places as well, because the temperatures really dropped in some areas as well, so we're getting mixed precipitation. The province of Manitoba put out a warning today, just some advice to say you need to be prepared for between 40 and 70 millimeters of precipitation today. The heaviest area being southern Manitoba, Interlake region, the Whiteshell Lakes area, and the city of Winnipeg. This could, because it's coming down so quickly, create high surface runoff and overland flooding. It's also happening in the United States, which means we're going to see more water coming up the Red River a little later, because of course everything that falls down there in the Red River Valley flows up north to us. However, because the water levels have been lower than normal, the flood forecasters are expecting it to remain within the banks for most major rivers, including the Red and the Assiniboine. Still be careful if you head out there. Remember that all this rain is going to fill your potholes. Try not to splash pedestrians and cyclists as you're driving along. Right now, we're back off to Brandon for Drone Day. Riley Laychuk will join us after the 12:30 news with more on your forecast, too, and when we can expect this system to move away and leave us with a little bit of a sunnier sky. But first, I want to talk about International Drone Day. Now, if you're a fan of remote control aerial devices, and that's what you think of when you think International Drone Day, it's not that day. This day may not be for you. There are two International Drone Days, one for the things that fly and one for this kind of drone. Now, maybe it's me, but that kind of reminds me of like a bagpiper warming up. But that is drone music. And again, just to clarify, it's not made by drones that fly. It's music composed by Brendan Ehinger. He organizes drone events with his company Prairie Wires and joins us by Zoom now from his home in Brandon. Brendan Ehinger, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Janet. Thanks for having me.
What is it you love about drone music?
Well, I'm not gonna go and say that it's the only exclusive kind of music that I listen to. I've got a long, sordid history with loud, fast punk rock with lots of noise and beats. But as I've softened in my age, I find myself listening to things that calm me down more than rile me up. In the past, I've gotten involved in electronic music through record stores that I've worked in, and just out of interest. And I've always found myself gravitating towards more subtle forms of it, more ambient electronic music, as opposed to pumping dance beats and stuff like that. So
how do you define it for someone who hasn't ever, thought of drone music?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting genre of music in that it's actually very diverse. There's drone metal, there is minimalist classical drone music. Culturally, it's existed kind of through the ages. If you remember the Gregorian chant craze back in the 90s, that could be considered a form of that. So the best way to describe it is really that it's music that is extremely slow and doesn't rely on like apparent rhythm or melody to kind of carry the composition. It's a lot of layers of like slow progressing tones and note clusters. It can be very brash and noisy, but it can also be very soft and soothing.
How did you get into it?
How did I get into it? It came to my attention, like I say, like when I was in my 20s, electronic artist that goes by Aphex Twin, Richard James out of the UK. He does two kind of styles of electronic music. One is really kind of aggressive and not really dancey, but like kind of some might call it intelligent dance music. But it's really rhythm heavy. And then he had a couple albums of ambient music, and I just found it really really interesting to put on when I was studying or even trying to sleep or wind down from the day. Like it was just a really calming kind of thing. And in the last few years since moving to Brandon, I really invested myself in trying to establish a kind of a experimental electronic scene here in Brandon, kind of out of self-preservation. Moving from Winnipeg, I found it really difficult to
you got to find your folks, your new folks in a new community.
Yeah, find my people. And the idea of International Drone Day came to my attention through friends and peers, and I just decided, you know what, I should do something in Brandon. I should find some of my folks, and we can get together one afternoon and just make drones out in a park.
And again, making drones is making drone compositions like this music.
Yeah, it can be very intentional and compositional. It can also be very improvisational and responsive. And a lot of the music that I personally make follows that path, where I'm kind of starting from nothing and building sounds. And drone music really lends itself to that in that. Even if it goes into sounds of dissonance and like wrong notes, so to speak, it can actually sound really intentional and really interesting for the ears to take it in those directions.
And that, I think, segues beautifully into the event that you have planned for tomorrow. You're going to have 8 different. This is your third annual International Drone Day event that you've planned for Brandon. Now, normally you'd have them. Is that correct? I'm right.
Yes, that's correct.
That's what you told me. I listen well. You sometimes better than others. You told me that you've in the past organized them to have, different performers. One will play and then somebody else will play. What are you doing tomorrow that's so different?
Well, I'll backtrack to 2020 when the pandemic hit, and I was planning a live Drone Day event that year as well. The first one happened in 2019, and in 2020, as we all know, things kind of halted to a stop. But there was a lot of activity online around music, and I decided to kind of collect drone music from friends and artists, which ended up being submissions from around the world. I had 36 people submit for a playlist that I was going to stream during International Drone Day for 24 hours. And at the end of the stream, I took all 36 compositions and I mixed them together in software to create kind of like a drone mega mix. And what I found that came out of it was like a really interesting, unexpected composition that really moved through different emotions and moods because of the way the different drones interacted with each other. So for this event this year, when I started getting some great artists contacting me from outside Brandon, willing to come to Brandon to perform the Drone Day event I was planning, I decided, maybe instead of each taking a turn, what if we all played at the same time? So that's what's going to be happening at Rideau Park, under the water tower in downtown Brandon, or East Brandon. I've got 8 acts from Saskatchewan through Manitoba, Brandon to Winnipeg. And everybody is going to be positioned at different places throughout the park, so that visitors can just sort of wander through the park and hear how the different drone compositions interact with each other and create unexpected new compositions in the intersections.
So the fun thing is that the listener and their ears will also determine the position and what they hear. It's really an experiential thing, as opposed to a big cacophony of everybody playing all at once in one room. You wander around and hear something different.
Absolutely. It's kind of an immersive experience that I'm expecting. I mean, everybody's talking about the weather right now, so I will just say right now, we have a rain day plan. So if this weather doesn't let up and it's still wet and dreary tomorrow, we're going to move the event to the Art Gallery of Southwestern Manitoba and try to recreate that experience. I did a walkthrough of the gallery yesterday. There are 8 different spaces throughout the building, using stairwells and the parking lot outside, covered parking lot, and I'll create that walkthrough experience there if necessary.
Brendan, I'm so glad you could join us today to tell us about this. I hope it goes great and lots of people check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janet.
Brendan Ehinger is the organizer of tomorrow's Dronescape celebration in Brandon. It's scheduled to kick off at 1 at the Kinsman Pavilion in Rideau Park, but you just heard there's a plan B there in case it rains. All right, we've got a big call-in conversation coming up at 12:30. We're going to be talking about sports and about coaches, what is great and how they should be trained. And we're also going to be talking about I apologize for the pause there. I was just looking for my director, Wendy, she had been talking about perhaps playing something, but I think we're a little tight on time, so I'm just going to keep talking to you about this great calling conversation that we're going to have. Our number, because we're about to open the phone lines right now, is 204-780-0893. There are so many coaches in the world that we've heard about who have done terrible things and left people with scars. But there are more people who don't make the news. And while it's important, incredibly important, that we talk about the scarring that's been done so that we can train coaches in a better way and make sure that in the future it is safer, we want to hear stories today about those people who've really touched you in a good way, who have made your life better through their guidance in sports or in another area. What coach has affected your life, has changed your life? Tell us some stories. 204-788. No, that's the wrong number. 204-780-0893. I'm going to get it together right now. It's 12:30. Here's your news.
This is CBC News. Thank you, Janet. At 12:30, we're at 6 degrees with a rainfall warning in downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. A man is dead after being shot by RCMP early this morning. Steinbach RCMP were patrolling along Highway 52 in the La Roquerie area when they spotted a vehicle stopped on the side of the road. Officers saw a man standing by the driver's side door. As police approached, they say the man was reaching into the vehicle, assaulting the woman in the driver's seat. He was ordered to step away, but instead, officers say he came at them with an edged weapon. As he continued to approach, an officer fired his gun. A 51-year-old man from the St. Anne area, died at the scene. The woman had minor injuries. The Major Crimes Unit and the Independent Investigation Unit of the province are investigating now. Highway 52 is still closed, and a detour is in effect. The project by the Southern Chiefs to transform the old Hudson Bay building in downtown Winnipeg is getting a funding boost from Ottawa. Federal Minister Dan Van Dahl announced a contribution of $31 million for the Weybenay-Bagakinnagan project. That is in addition to an earlier commitment of $65 million. Van Dahl says the money will be used to fund a new app to help First Nations people find employment on the project, as well as funding for upgrades and restoration of the site.
This building is destined to be a social, economic, and cultural hub that honors First Nations and welcomes all people. This is a major undertaking designed to benefit our community for generations to come. Once complete, we will have new housing, new businesses.
SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels calls it a transformative project and an example of economic reconciliation. And Canada's border crossings could be slowed by striking workers. Just as the busy summer season approaches, the Public Service Alliance of Canada represents border services officers. It says 96% voted in favor of striking if their union and the Canada Border Services Agency can't come to an agreement. Workers have been without a contract for more than 2 years, and the union says it's fighting for fair wages and equitable retirement. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Matt Humphrey.
Mouthful of marbles today.
Hey, look, you and me both. So
Jeez.
It's Friday. I think it's
It
the
is?
rain.
It's Friday?
It's Friday.
Thank goodness.
And it's rainy. We're going to hear just how rainy.
We will?
Yes, we are right now.
Let's do it.
All right. You have a great day.
Back soon.
Riley Lachuk joins us now. Hi, Riley.
Looking at a very wet day ahead, Janet.
Yes,
Next
we
24 hours. Yeah, we'll get right into it because there's a lot to talk about today weather-wise. We'll start with the rainfall warning that's still in place for the city of Winnipeg, the Red River Valley into the Interlake, as well as the Brandon region and into Westman, where we actually did see some snow through the early part of this morning and even some heavier accumulation as expected in some of those higher elevations, say around the Turtle Mountains. I know that I did see some images of some snow in the area around the International Peace Gardens south of Boissevain, where there was some snow through the morning hours today. A little bit of snow in the Brandon region as well. Not out of the question that we could see a little bit of snow through the afternoon hours as well. And radar is kind of picking that up in the Westman region right now. Some light snow mixed with rain through the region and even into the Winnipeg region. We're in a little bit of a break from the rain right now here in Winnipeg. Just some passing showers, but areas to the west, boy, oh boy, getting some pretty heavy accumulation, say, in the Portage la Prairie, Gladstone region and up into the region around, say, Amaranth, ebb and flow, Alonza, McCreary, getting some pretty heavy precipitation this hour. So looking at temperatures, this is why I say some of this likely in the Westman region still falling as snow. Right now, Brandon's at +1. +6 here in Winnipeg and +9 in Thompson, where we're seeing some sunnier skies in parts of northern Manitoba through today. And really, as we get into the rest of the day today, we're looking at rain at times heavy through the Red River Valley continuing. As we get into the late evening, tapering off to periods of rain or some light showers overnight tonight. Back to the west, once again, some light flurry activity, and we're looking at that continuing into the early part of Saturday. But by the time we get to about 9:30, 10 o'clock, Winnipeg is sort of right on the edge of the rain. The Trans-Canada Corridor north, still getting some showers first thing in the morning, but by the time we reach lunchtime or so, we are starting to clear out. And even by about 5, 6 o'clock, the Brandon region back to sunshine. Here in Winnipeg, likely not seeing some sunshine until we get to about 7, 8 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. Sunday is looking much sunnier, I can tell you that, and a lot less windy as we head into Sunday as well. In terms of rain to come, 20 to 30 millimeters not out of the question for the Red River Valley. Could see some higher pockets, as mentioned, Portage la Prairie, north into the northern Interlake, where we could see up to 40 yet to come through Gimli, Arberg, into the Grand Rapids region. Temperatures really don't go anywhere today. 3 in Brandon this afternoon, 9 in Winnipeg, 12 in Thompson under a mainly cloudy sky. Tomorrow we're looking at a 10-degree high with some showers and then slowly climbing our way back to more sunnier conditions and much more seasonal conditions toward mid-next week. I've got a 24 for next Wednesday.
There you go.
So, eye on the prize.
Eye on the prize, that 24, and then we'll watch for next weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Where we're hoping for sunshine.
I hope so, too.
Yeah. Riley Lachuk, thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
Riley, you too, is our weather specialist, and he'll be back gearing up to speed this afternoon, the program that airs here on CBC Radio 1 between 3 and 6 p.m., and then he runs up the stairs, and he's on television magical thing, this building. So much happens here, including conversations with our great guest to come and with you. Please call us 204-780-0893. It's time for our calling conversation. And today we thought we'd talk about coaches. There's an event on at the University of Manitoba where they're talking about tackling the toxicity we've heard of so often. And it's so important to change the culture of sport. But there are the individuals who have touched our lives, who've done great things in being maybe a strict teacher, maybe somebody really supportive. It's a Friday, it's raining. Tell us some good stories about the people you've met through sport or through activities in your life who've made a difference. 204-780-0893. If you live outside Winnipeg, 1-800-268-5483. Our guest today is Dr. Leisha Strawn. She is Professor and Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Studies at the Faculty of Kinesiology and Recreation Management at the University of Manitoba. That is a big title, Leisha Strawn. Thank you for being with us on Zoom today.
Thank you. It's a mouthful, I know. Thanks.
How much of the work you do and the research you do is devoted to training so we have better coaches?
That has been pretty much what I've done since I did my doctoral work, which is almost 20 years ago now, is starting to really look and try to understand more about creating positive spaces for kids in sport. And we know that coaches are among the most influential other adults in children's lives. And so there's so much research to support that and support the importance of really good coaches. And coupled with that is a lot of research around coaching behaviors, talking about coach-athlete interactions, and there's so much there. But I think it's really important for us to really have those conversations about what is good coaching and how do we do it so that we can make sport better.
It is, and better and more inclusive for everyone. Well, I'm trying to spin this because I thought people might prefer to talk about the good memories to talking about the great coaches. But I don't want to silence conversation that's important. For too long, a lot of people have held things in that really need to be surfaced. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. I just attended Sport Manitoba's Safe Sports Summit a couple weekends ago. And just the conversations around safe sport and us understanding a little bit more about what that means. And it's important to note that safety is not only physical safety, as we know, but it has to do with psychological, emotional, social safety as well. And as coaches, there's such a big responsibility to think about how we are deliberately and intentionally creating those moments so that athletes feel more safe in our programs. And it's an important conversation. There's going to be more and more at a national level related to safe sport. And so we need to understand it more and also acknowledge a lot of harm that's been done to many athletes and think then about how we can make it better and move forward so that sport can grow.
204-780-0893. If you have a story you would like to share about a coach in your life, maybe you've been a coach and you want to share some experience, 204-780-0893. If you'd like a toll-free number, you're outside the city, call us for free, 1-800-268-5483. Again, 1-800-268-5483. What makes a great coach?
There are so many things I think that make a coach great. And of course, it comes a lot down to personality and what coaches are wanting to share. But I think there are some specific actions that are really important as we think about the coaching behaviors. So there's one study from 2015 by Amanda Visek and colleagues from the States, and she talks about fun theory. And so we know that when we ask young people why they're in sport, a lot of them will say it's because it's fun. And her group of researchers really started looking at what is fun, like what does that actually mean within sport? And one of the top 3 reasons that kids found fun in sport was through positive coaching. And what I really love about this study is that they actually suggest some specific actions that coaches can do to encourage more fun, or how children perceive fun within their sports spaces. And what's interesting in this list of maybe 13 actions, only one of them actually speaks to knowledge, like a coach that knows a lot about about sport. And of course, that's a really important part of fun. We want coaches who are knowledgeable and know what they're doing, because that's not fun either when a coach doesn't know what they're doing and you don't feel like you're learning. But a lot of those other skills are what we say are soft skills. So someone who's very knowledgeable, someone who actually encourages, someone who's respectful to their players, someone who is a role model, someone who jokes around with players, someone who plays in practice with their players. All those things, I think, help to build bonds and connections with young people. And so I think when coaches can think about what those actual actions are, those are what make them great. And of course, you have your own things that you might do. I know I've had I've been very blessed to have phenomenal coaches throughout my own sporting career. And I try to emulate that in my own coaching. But of course, I also had to find my own path and the things that I think are also important and that speak to me. And so I think whenever a coach can share stories with athletes, I think if they're not afraid to be vulnerable with them a little bit, and that's appropriate, and share with them some of their story, and not afraid to lighten up and have some fun. I think that's what really kids are drawn to. And of course, we do have to have some boundaries. We do have to have some expectations as well. The kids like challenge as well, being involved in sport. So we have to balance that challenge with also what are some of those sort of fun qualities and bringing in those fun aspects as well.
204-780-0893. We'd love to hear from you about the people that have inspired you through your life. I was discussing this, Leisha, with Marcy Marcusa this morning on Information Radio just before we went on. And she was off the air. There was a song playing at the time. And I knew she was very sporty. I'm not very sporty. But as soon as she started talking about someone who really encouraged her, this was a gym teacher who knew that Marcy didn't like to run, didn't feel that she was a runner or could run, stayed behind and ran with her. Come on, we're going to do this together. And that encouragement, come on, you can do this. You can do this. Being the yes, you can person is so helpful. And as soon as she gave that thought to me, I went, oh, and I could think of a list of people who've been my you can do it person. It's an incredible opportunity to really make a difference in people's lives. Coaching.
It is. There's an art. There is an art to coaching. And I think a lot of times coaching programs focus so much on the physical skill aspects, teaching the drills, making sure your lesson plan is good, teaching all of those. And I have been encouraging even the Coaching Association of Canada and thinking more about how we can actually infuse learning and appreciating some of these other skills that are just so important. It is beyond teaching physical literacy, which is so important, and physical skills, which is great because that leads to active and healthy adults. And that's what we want in the end from sport. We spend a lot of time thinking about competition and competitiveness and all those things, but we know that things are different now. And there are still coaches we know out there who are still using a lot of the same principles now that they did when they were athletes and learned from coaches. And, kids are different, society's different, things are different. And so we have to change with that as coaches as well and appreciate the diverse people that we have within our programs, and learn how to work with them and inspire them all.
I know that a lot of places are struggling to get coaches, to get people to step up and volunteer. If you're a parent and you're listening to this, if you've been a coach, if your child's been impacted by a great coach or someone you wish had skills in a different area, join our conversation and let us know too what it's like. If you're someone who would like to participate in a sport, you'd like your child to participate in something, but you can't find the coach to help out. 204-780-0893.
Yeah.
It is a different time. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say it's very tricky right now too. You talked about, being very difficult to find coaches, and, it's really tricky right now to find coaches because there are so many layers that we've put within being a coach and certifying and and now we learn about safe sport, and you got to learn about EDI stuff, and you got to learn, like, there's so many things to learn. But one of my favorite quotes is by Dr. Maya Angelou, and she says, do your best until you know better, then when you know better, do better. And I think we have to take that pressure off of people who just want to come and volunteer. Once we've done the appropriate checks, background checks, I think if they want to come and help, they're going to do the best they can, right? And then along the way, they're going to gain knowledge, whether it's through formal courses, whether it's through informal courses, whether it's through mentorship. And the research points the importance of mentorship being one of the most important ways that coaches learn. And so we have to put those mentorship pieces in place to encourage young coaches or even parents who are coming back and want to help. And then, we know that once they gain knowledge, it's going to make them better, and they will do better in the end.
And what knowledge is out there? Like, what resources are there for someone who's thinking about this? Is there someplace, where can they go?
Definitely. I would start at Sport Manitoba Coaching for sure, and contact them. Ask about what types of courses there are. There are courses that you need to be certified through the national certifying board. So they offer those coaches. There are weeks in the year where some of those courses are offered for free. So coaches can, if you get on the mailing list of Sport Coaching Manitoba, I know that they'll be able to inform people and let them know what's going on in the community related to coaching. And then, find some good mentors, find people who are able to assist you and help you. It's very isolating, I think, coaching. I've been coaching myself a really long time, and I started on my own. And I know that once I brought people in, people I trusted, friends who were, thinking about coaching, once we're all together and learning in community, that just helped us so much to learn from each other. And so that's just such an important piece of development as well.
So grab a buddy and be brave.
Yes, bring someone with you. Exactly. Bring someone with you.
Do you have a story you might like to share about someone who's been a fantastic coach in your life?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've had a couple coaches that have been so impactful. One being Joyce Ormshaw, who started my kind of first entry into competitive sport, and she was with me for a while and was just so positive and encouraging, allowed me to have some choice as well in terms of the skills I wanted to learn. And, without knowing all the research back then, we know empowerment is such an important piece as well. And then I had, a coach later in life, Carrie McKittrick, who lives in Ontario. And, she just was someone who's very innovative and kind of thought outside the box, introduced me to sports psychology at a young age when I was 12, 13, 14, inspiring me to use imagery. She used to have those cassette tapes of somebody saying an imagery script on, a cassette tape, and it was a very low, slow person talking. And I always fell asleep when I was trying to do imagery, but it was such an important skill that I developed through my whole competitive career. And teaching me or showing me that when no one else was really talking about sports psychology back then that much in our sports spaces, she was just very innovative, and I've taken that from her. I think the importance of continuing to gain knowledge and trying to be innovative in the things that we do. So I have so many stories around them, and to this day, I still have notes, cards, things that they've written for me. Over the pandemic, when everyone was cleaning out and figuring out boxes of things, I pulled out an old box of like all this memorabilia from when I was twirling. And some of those things were like notes from my coach, and I ended up framing them and putting them up because like these are things of encouragement, words that we want to hear every day when you're feeling down. You just want to be pulled up, and quotes and those types of things. And it's just so nice to pass by, my house and have it up, and I'll just see her handwriting. I don't even have to read it. I can just see her handwriting because it's so unique and like reminds me that there are people out there who are just continuing to encourage. And that's so important. And I hope I know people have stories like that. Everyone does. So maybe it's just, not enough time to kind of get it and to share it. But, I encourage everyone to really think about those stories and allow them to encourage you.
I was going to ask about your competitive career, what sports you participated in. You just mentioned twirling there, so baton is one.
Yes, yeah, baton is the main one. I was involved for 18 years as an athlete and had a chance to represent Canada at 7 world championships and have a couple of medals from world. So, I was really fortunate to have a really strong career. And I also, ran track and field here for a couple of years at the University of Manitoba when I was a student. And, what I really enjoyed about that experience and those coaches was that I wasn't the best track and field athlete by any stretch of the imagination. We had some phenomenal athletes back in the late 90s here at the University of Manitoba. And, but at the same time, the coaches I had didn't care about that. They didn't care if I was the weakest or, they really cared about effort and commitment and dedication. So if you showed that and you showed up and you put your best effort in, they were willing to give you their best effort as well. And so I took that from those coaches as well, that you might not be the best at everything, but coaches can approach everyone the same way. And I really respected that about the coaches I had through my short track and field career here when I was a student.
We've heard so much about toxicity in sport. In fact, the federal minister of sport says we're in a safe sport crisis at the moment. I know this is the focus of a talk at the University of Manitoba this evening, where different researchers will share the latest information. They're going to be playing a video that you made as well, and this is a talk. They have these Café Scientifique events every so often at the University of Manitoba. You can check their website to find out more. I think a lot of people who might be thinking about coaching would be scared and think that I could go out there, I could do my very best, but one wrong step, and suddenly on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever, I'm outed as being a terrible person, and how do I defend myself? Because somebody can make an allegation so easily. What protection is there for coaches?
Yes, we talked about the Safe Sports Summit. It's true that, athletes definitely need to be protected. They are particularly, when we talk about youth athletes or anyone who's in the care of an adult, that they need their protection. But I always, and I know coaches think that, I have to do all these things to sort of like help protect these athletes, but in turn, they are protecting you as well. So rules like the power of two coming in that really encourages, not encourages, but now mandates that an adult's not left alone with a child in a sporting, field of play or
protection for both parties.
It's protection for both parties. I had someone ask, if you're in a car, how many times has it happened? Or you can think of in your own development or through friends that, you're at a gym, maybe like the gym's canceled or something happens, or a parent's car broke down and you're trying to waiting with an athlete for someone to come home. The coaches have separate cars, how do we get someone home in a safe way? And, someone suggests, it's not something we're used to, but we know that many athletes have cell phones. And some people have suggested, call the parent and, put the phone on speaker, and even if they don't say anything, they can listen into whatever conversation you're having in the car. And they're aware of the situation that's going on. And, it might seem cumbersome, might seem like we don't need that. We shouldn't need it. Yes, in a perfect world, we shouldn't need that. But we know that, I know that the parents in my club feel more comfortable with me doing that. I'm happy to do that. And most coaches, I think, would be okay. After a while, you don't even realize that because you're laughing about something or talking about something. And so I think those things are in place and we have to be really aware of that and protect ourselves as well.
Are you confident that we will come out of this time to a better place in sport?
I'm an optimist. I always have been. It's sometimes a critique of my own research that I'm very optimistic when I'm thinking about the future of sport, but I am. I do think that we're on a road where at least we're having these conversations, we're talking about it. And I think the more we talk about it, the more that that's out there for people to know, for parents to know more about, for administrators to know about. And I think we do need that 360-degree buy-in, not just from athletes and coaches, but we need the system to also reflect that and assist coaches and athletes. And we need parents to be on board as well. And we need parents to be really mindful of not only their own child, but also all the children on the team. We know it takes a village to raise children. And so part of that village is really thinking about how other parents, how other coaches can think about that. Just a really quick story. I know that, I really appreciate it when sometimes I have another coach who will come to me and tell me about something that's either happening with an athlete or a situation that they've noticed, because it's not just the club you belong to, it's all of us. And talking to other coaches and, sharing that information and so that we can all be on the same page and things can be better. So I am very optimistic, and I think that things can get better.
Dr. Alicia Strawn, thank you so much for your time today. Have a fabulous weekend.
I appreciate your time as well. Stay dry. Thank you.
Dr. Alicia Strawn teaches in the Faculty of Kinesiology and Recreation Management at the University of Manitoba. Faith Fundal teaches me each and every day how to be a kinder human.
You're
and
very kind.
Possibly more fashionable, too. And if you're looking at what I'm wearing today, Faith has more work to do to teach me to be fashionable.
I was going to say, I don't think today's the day for fashion because all I'm wearing is our sweatpants and a hoodie.
Yesterday, you looked great, though. What's coming up on Up to Speed today?
So we are taking Up to Speed from the studio here, and we will be live at Canada Life Centre all afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. because today, is the Winnipeg Sea Bears home opener.
Yes.
And we're trying to answer the question, is Winnipeg a basketball city? And we have lots of folks who are very passionate and want to say yes, do say yes, and we're going to try to convince us that, yes, Winnipeg is a basketball city.
I have a feeling that you might want to agree with them.
I think so, too.
The Sea Bears is a fun team. Yeah.
They're so much fun, and we'll hear from the team owner. We'll hear from the Tracksuit Brothers. They're these big fans who wear these very bright velour tracksuits. They're fan favorites, and we'll also hear from team members. So it's going to be a fun afternoon.
Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you.
If you've got the opportunity, and if you want to go back later and listen on CBC Listen or on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page, do, because Up to Speed today is going to be a lot of fun. It sounds like. I hope they have YouTube out there. It'll happen. You got Listen app. Well, they don't have YouTube out there. They'll take pictures. It'll all be good. Look, thank you for being with us today. I really enjoy the hour I get to spend with you each and every weekday. It wouldn't happen without a team of people. Travis Peterson, May McKillop, doing our studio directing today. Thank you, May. And Wendy Parker, our studio director. Leif Larson and Nellie Gonzalez provide us guidance when we have questions. And you provide me a reason for getting up. So thank you for listening. CBC, up next, our podcast showcase. Have a great weekend, and we'll chat Monday.